The Glen Innes area was parched by drought, then scorched by bushfires and isolated by COVID-19 restrictions. In the village of Waitalabar, east of Glen Innes, 3 lives were claimed by the bushfire that also destroyed up to 70 homes, a bridge and the primary school, leaving the town isolated for many weeks. In Glen Innes, businesses suffered a dramatic loss of trade. As a traditional toy shop, Carelles has been a landmark retailer in Glen Innes since 1969. Reopening and regrowing trade was healing on an individual and economic levels. For Carelles Toy Shop owner Sue Waters, a business can be about much more than money.
When I bought the business in 2014, after we sold our family farm, I wanted to keep it as a traditional style toy shop. I wanted to give children that lovely experience that we had when we were children growing up, of going into a toy shop that was special, that was full of interesting and different things, and they can come in and they can browse, they can look through and explore. They don't have to feel pressured to buy anything. I love it when families come in with all their children and they might spend half an hour looking through the shop, and the expressions of joy and the lovely little comments that kids make when they actually come into my business for the first time, it makes my day. It really does. It gives me a great sense of pleasure.
Sue described the recent dark times she had endured.
The drought was exceptionally hard on rural communities and on the Glen Innes retail sector. The bushfires also had a very, very large impact. Bushfires stopped people from travelling, and the news that was being reported in the cities that places like Glen Innes had been burnt out just frightened travellers and stopped people from coming to our community. COVID was had serious impact, but strangely enough not as bad as the drought was. I don't think people in the city realise how really severely impacted all the rural towns were by the drought, because it dragged on for so long. Once COVID came along, it was difficult to deal with, but I think the fact that the federal government had actually given families additional payments, it meant that they had more income that they could spend, or more money that they could spend, and because they weren't travelling anywhere else, they were actually spending it to a large degree in their local shopping district. The hardest thing about COVID was the isolation for people, and not being able to go and see friends and not being able to go and see family. I think that's what really impacted our local community as much as the financial impact.
Ms. Waters described how she and her business survived the toughest of times.
My income from COVID actually was twice the income that I had from during the drought. It was quite interesting when I was doing my bookwork to see what was actually going on. I dealt with it basically by just, I suppose you could say in old-fashioned terms, tightening my belt, and I didn't spend money on extra things personally, because I'm an owner-operator. Everything that I spend affects my income and my business. I hadn't had a holiday for 10 years until just recently, and I just didn't spend on any extra things. So everything that I had, everything the business made, went back into the business to keep it going, because if you don't do that, then the business ends up closing, which is not only bad for me and tragic in my circumstances, but it's also bad for the local community when you have a shop as big as this, which is, I suppose, in its way a bit of an icon in the district. When it closes down, then it has possibly an unacknowledged psychological impact on the people that live in the district.
Carelles Toy Shop is a shining example of how regional business survived dark times of historic proportions. Ms. Waters had to be resilient or quit.
I think, I know it's a much used word, but I think resilience is very, very important. I find that if you just have that attitude where you have to just keep on going. I'm a single mother. I brought up both of my children by myself. So I couldn't afford to just close my doors and walk away, and I didn't want to. I've spent 50 years of my life being on a farm, and I think that helped me develop that resilience, and that the idea that you just have to keep on going day after day after day. I suppose as much as anything, it's a psychological thing, and because I was prepared to make sacrifices myself, financial sacrifices, and make sure that my business kept going, I'm still here at the end of COVID. And interestingly, most of the businesses in this little town have survived COVID. I think most of us that are here, we do have that resilience, and that to survive the drought and then the bushfires and then COVID, we have just developed resilience and the idea that we just have to keep going on.
While many businesses owe much to online promotion or trade, investing in more traditional marketing paid off for Carelles Toy Store as Ms. Waters worked on her business recovery.
Well, interestingly enough, the one thing I did do was I started advertising on the radio, and it actually brought me in customers from other towns that don't have a toy shop like I am. So they might have a Big W or they might have a Kmart, but it's not the same thing. It's not the same experience. They don't have the same stock range that I have. They don't keep the old-fashioned toys like yo-yos and slinkies and all the little things that the kids love. And the very fact that I did advertise on radio has brought me custom from hundreds of kilometres away in some cases. And I've even had people driving into the town who have heard my ad on the radio and come looking for my business.
Ms. Waters said that she contemplated adding shopping cart facilities to her website, but decided that it would not be time efficient, cost effective, or fit with Carelles.
The core of my business is the whole toy shop experience, is the fun of coming in and looking, and the whole atmosphere of the shop.
This is a Bushfire Community Recovery and Resilience Fund project, funded through the Joint Commonwealth State Disaster Recovery Funding Arrangements.